People were dying for this information. There was some sort of list that everybody thought was going to come out, and who's on the list. What's important for us to note is we shouldn't be repeating names that are on the list, because just because your name has not on the list, but in the documents, just because your name is on the documents doesn't mean that you have done anything criminally irresponsible or illegal or civilly irresponsible.
Or that you were a client.
Or that you were a client. It only really, these documents as I read them, only reflect Epstein's sexual assaults of women and his sexual behavior. So I think that...
And Ghislaine also?
And Ghislaine. And so being named in this suit does not equate to being accused of wrongdoing. And I think that is extremely important, because conspiracy theorists seem to not understand or enjoy facts.
Yes.
These are the facts.
There is a list. Trump's name is on the logs, the passenger logs of Epstein's aircraft at least 7 times. That's already been made public. I mean, of course, Trump is denying any and all allegations, but all of that information is out there.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. What's up, T-Mail22? Grizz Cheese, BB for Liberty, Bruce Burtwhistle, Joni Rankin, Kim McCurry. You guys are all so special. Y2 Joe, Thormock, all of our friends here and live from the Isle of Alderney. It's South Cod. Hey guys, I'm on the right page today. You found me. Congratulations. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm so glad and thankful to have you here today on the show with me. If you are on Rumble, make sure that you click the like button. Make sure you click the follow button too. If today's your very first time watching the Wake Up America show, this show's 5 days a week. It's time to have some fun. We've got some great guests on the show today. I've been really working hard to try and bring you new names and faces. And we've got somebody, they were on the show quite a long time ago, Liz Mair. She's a Republican strategist, lives in the UK, former Senator Roy Blunt, comms staffer, Rand Paul comms staffer, knows a thing or two about the inside. She's going to talk about the Epstein files, an explosive story yesterday of disgraced, trying to return from disgrace actor Kevin Spacey, calling for the full release of the Epstein files. Things are getting weird, especially the things that I'm seeing from President Trump. Tell me that you don't think that this sounds just kind of weird.
Mr. President, your daughter-in-law said that there should be transparency in the Epstein case. Do you agree with her, sir?
The Attorney General's handled that very well. She's really done a very good job. And I think that when you look at it, you'll understand that. I would like to see that also. But I think the Attorney General, the credibility is very important. And you want credible evidence for something like that. And I think the Attorney General has handled it very well.
How many more states? The Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on that.
On what? On the
DOJ and FBI
On what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein.
Okay.
On Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah.
Wait. I don't get it. What do you think is credible she should release? I thought we weren't going to release it. We shouldn't talk about it. It's the Russia hoax. It's just, how is this the Russia hoax? It's a hoax, but it doesn't exist. Yeah, things are just really weird here. That's the narrative. So you're watching the Wake Up America show. This is the only show that's stronger than your morning espresso. I had a double shot this morning, and boy, did it really get me moving. Let's jump right into the political volcano of the day. Kevin Spacey, Hollywood pariah, actor, and let's be honest, probably not the guy you want fronting your PTA fundraiser. Just dropped a truth grenade. He's calling for the Epstein files to be released. Yeah, that Kevin Spacey, star of...
Mr. President,
excuse me.
Mr. President.
Get away from there. There we go. Yeah, Kevin Spacey, the guy who made a career playing the villain, is now playing whistleblower. Now, you think that the press would be all over this, but they're too busy fact-checking whether milk causes whiteness. Meanwhile, Alan Dershowitz, the man who never met a media mic that he didn't like, penned a piece in the Wall Street Journal claiming Epstein never had a client list. But, plot twist, Dershowitz knows who the clients are. I'm not making this up. It's my job to read all the news so that you don't have to. Yeah, and this is not like some AOAP. You're being hyperbolic. You're exaggerating. It's all out there. It's all public record. I'm just watching the carnival of clowns pile into the clown car while everybody tells me the clowns are not piling into the car. You're crazy for pointing out that the clowns are piling up into the car. Trump, on the other hand, says the whole Epstein thing is boring. That's rich coming from a guy who throws fastballs at reporters for asking about water pressure. Suddenly, child trafficking and elite blackmail networks are boring. That's interesting. Do you guys think that is this a boring story to you?
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
Okay, so only bad people are interested in the story. People always tell me I'm a bad person. I feel like I'm not a bad person, actually. I feel like people who try and cover this stuff up are probably the bad people. Now we're talking about Speaker Mike Johnson. He's kind of like the designated driver at a frat party. Now he's saying maybe we should let people see what's in the Epstein files. Speaker Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, the voice of reason. I never would have seen it coming. Mike Johnson, MAGA Mike, breaking with Trump. That's like Chick-fil-A switching to tofu nuggets. That doesn't happen unless something is going seriously sideways behind the scenes. And here's the latest twist. This is huge. Representative Thomas Massie, libertarian lion from Kentucky. Massie don't care. Massie don't give a shit. Thomas Massie says he's launching a discharge petition to force a House vote to release the complete Epstein files. And it's not just Massie. Ro Khanna, a progressive from California, is co-sponsoring the resolution. Massie posted it on X yesterday. We all deserve to know what's in the Epstein files, who's implicated, and how deep this corruption goes. Americans were promised justice and transparency. Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro went head-to-head over this yesterday.
Now we're working in the realm of the unfalsifiable.
You're not, but look, Ben, you can't come to me and say, everybody I know says he killed himself. And then I respond saying, I actually have my own sources who say he didn't. And then you say, well, your sources are not valid because they won't put their names on it. Okay, who are your sources? Let's go down the list and then we'll talk about why they might be saying that.
My sources are the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino, the Deputy Head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And those aren't just my sources. They're everybody's sources because they publicly came out and said this.
Okay, Trump hasn't specifically weighed in on that specific aspect of it. We've all seen the limited things that Trump has said and tweeted on this. And J.D. Vance was calling for transparency and suggesting otherwise prior to taking office. He hasn't commented on this so far, so he's not one of your sources.
He's the vice president.
You've got Kash, you've got Dan, and you've got Pam, and we've already discussed that memo in full detail. I'm talking about people behind the scenes who, prior to Trump taking office, I'm not going to get too specific, But trust me, I have high-level sources who have said they don't believe any of that. Any of that. Okay. So, and I'm not going to out them for purposes of convincing you, but you're telling me name them. No, I'm not going to. I don't have authorization.
I'm not saying,
and then you say, well, I dismiss all of it because you won't name them.
Hold on, Megan, I'm not saying you should name them. I'm saying they should name themselves because otherwise they are being complicit in one of the greatest cover-ups in the history of the American
Republic. That's easy for you to say, Ben. That's easy. That's very easy for you to say.
Why is that easy for me to say? Why?
Because you'll have your job and you'll have your millions, no matter what they do.
Megan, give me a break. If somebody came out today and they were a whistleblower on the greatest scandal in the history of the American Republic, they would make more money tomorrow than in their entire life working for the FBI. That's ridiculous.
Okay. There are reasons not to cross the people who are in charge. And that's all I'm going to say. And look, this is me not having.
I mean, it's like Megyn Kelly, I feel. I like both of them. Ben probably I like a little bit more, but I think Kelly had the jump on him on that one. Where is JD Vance, by the way, on this one? JD's probably sitting around in the back room right now, after what he said on the Theo Von podcast. It wasn't that long ago. JD Vance was talking to Theo Von and saying, oh, yeah, we need to release the Epstein files. So now everybody who says that we should release the Epstein files, at least according to the president, is bad people, or perhaps we're Democrats. I don't know. It's hard to tell what I'm a Democrat for from one day to the next. I was a Democrat for supporting free trade and being against tariffs recently. Now I'm a Democrat for wanting to support the Epstein files. Things are up is down, left is right, and the state loves us and just wants us to be happy. Hey, can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, gosh. Money-wise. Please.
Can you... don't forget, guys, we've got bonus content to unlock today, so let's get going and getting that bonus content unlocked. Austin, what is the bonus content? Every day on the Wake Up America show, we produce a 5-minute mini documentary about a news story that you probably won't hear anywhere else, but if you do hear it anywhere else, then you probably hear it after you heard it on our shows. So we produce a little 5-minute mini documentary every day. It's a way for us to produce a little extra bonus content for you. If you would like to see it, all you have to do is either make a Rumble Rant donation live on the show during our 2-hour live show, and that will help to unlock the bonus content. And we have a $75 limit. Once we hit it, that unlocks the bonus content. Today, also, we've got a sale going on at the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com, and you can use the code WAKEUP for 10% off your purchases here this week only. Here on the Wake Up America show, we've got this incredible jacket, champion jacket, that we got a 5-star review on from Dan Capon, if you'll check it out, or excuse me, Robert Capon, who said the perfect jacket, fit, style, and functional. Beautiful USA jacket available at forlibertyshop.com. It's got a kangaroo pocket, one of the hidden zipped pouch pockets, super high quality, packable in the zip pouch pocket so you can actually zip up the jacket in its own pouch, bungee draw cord at the hood and bottom hem, elastic cuffs, wind and rain resistant. Fall is coming. I've already seen the Halloween stuff out at the TJ Maxx last weekend, guys. So if you guys want a nice jacket to get ready for, or if you're already tired of the summer rains and you just need a nice little light rain slicker, then there you go. The American flag champion jacket, designed by moi, available at forlibertyshop.com. Just head to the Grift Shop. Thegriftshop.com will take you there as well. Type in American flag champion jacket. You buy 1 or 2 of those, and that'll help to unlock that bonus content as well today. So head on over, forlibertyshop.com. The American flag champion jacket. Get 10% off with the code WAKEUP. That's 10% off with the code WAKEUP. Why don't you put on a little makeup? So this is no longer a fringe issue. This is about a system that is protecting itself. And when you have libertarians and progressives teaming up in Congress, you know something's rotten in the District of D.C. So don't worry. We're going to unpack every single detail today. But first, support the show that says they won't. Head to the Grift Shop. The Grift Shop is your high-quality shop for unfiltered, uncancelable freedom merch. Remember, you can get 10% off using that code Wake Up. Here in about 8 to 9 minutes, we're going to have Liz Mair. She's a Republican strategist, a comms ninja, and a veteran swamp watcher. Liz Mair, she is a veteran of Senator Rand Paul's, Senator Roy Blunt's campaigns. and has worked for them, and is going to talk to us today a little bit about the Epstein files with the new Kevin Spacey twist. So we're going to hear from her 8 minutes from now. My recommendation to you is, instead of having to watch commercials while I go backstage to go get Liz and to bring her on to set for you guys, is that you head to the Grift Shop and make your purchases now to unlock that sweet, sweet bonus content. If we unlock the bonus content during the commercial break, I will switch over to the bonus content immediately, so you guys know that somebody went and bought an American flag champion jacket or something else, and maybe they even used the code WAKEUP for 10% off. We'd appreciate that if you guys would do so, because it's way more fun, and it guarantees that the Wake Up America show will be live again next month. Look at the faces of some of these idiots.
All right, so the point that I want to make here is this. I think that this idea that the MAGA base is fractured and there's all this stuff, again, it just seems to be something that's entirely about the internet.
It's not.
I really want to ask the question
no, Rob,
to everybody.
you're wrong about that.
Has there been...
You're wrong about that, because a number of...
Ask this question?
Rob, you're wrong. I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. When you've got people like Tucker Carlson and other very high-profile figures on the right, they're not just online people. They are big, big figures who are getting mainstream media coverage because of it. This is a big, genuine issue in the MAGA movement. It is.
And again, it is. And to the point that I was going to make, Piers, yes, Tucker Carlson is major. Megyn Kelly is major. All of these people are major journalists and podcasters who command huge audiences, and a large part of their business is to get attention from said huge audiences. Has there been a single Trump administration cabinet member that has said, I'm stepping down because I don't like the handling of the Epstein files? Has there been a congressman or congresswoman, an elected official all across the country that has said that I am standing down because of the Epstein files? Has there been an elected that is saying that I have so thoroughly lost all of my confidence in Trump and the Trump administration over the mishandling of the Epstein files that I'm literally going to resign? Yes,
that's
the rumors about Bongino are out there.
Hang on, Rob, hang on.
To blow over.
Rob, here's my answer to you. Here's my answer to you. Donald Trump on Truth Social, 12th of July. What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pat Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're one team on MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. And he goes on and on and on about it. Donald Trump thinks there's a split in MAGA. And he's not an online guy. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah. That never has something been more terminally online than to say the phrase terminally online. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm glad and thankful to have you here. We got 5 minutes left until we get Liz Mair. Let's hear from Liz Mair. She's going to be here in 5 minutes. Don't go away. Enjoy the commercials. Why don't you do a little shopping, guys? Head on over to the Grift Shop. Get yourself something real nice, Clark. Real nice. Head on over there now, and I'll be right back with Liz Mair. Don't go away. Summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2. The third? Huh. The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at forlibertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at forlibertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
People were dying for this information. There was some sort of list that everybody thought was going to come out, and who's on the list. What's important for us to note is we shouldn't be repeating names that are on the list, because just because your name has not on the list, but in the documents, just because your name is on the documents doesn't mean that you have done anything criminally irresponsible or illegal or civilly irresponsible.
Or that you were a client.
Or that you were a client. These documents, as I read them, only reflect Epstein's sexual assaults of women and his sexual behavior. So I think that...
And Elaine also?
And Ghislaine. And so being named in this suit does not equate to being accused of wrongdoing. And I think that is extremely important, because conspiracy theorists seem to not understand or enjoy facts.
Yes.
These are the facts.
There is a list. Trump's name is on the logs, the passenger logs of Epstein's aircraft at least 7 times. That's already been made public. I mean, of course, Trump is denying any and all allegations, but all of that information is out there. Why not just put it to rest and say, release the list?
That's quite a turnabout. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. That's on the For Liberty Network. Boy, you guys have been shopping over there at the For Liberty shop. Thanks to Robbie. He went over there and he bought some of our delicious tea. If you haven't tried it, the For Liberty, absolutely delicious. They call you a grifter, so what do? You buy the domain name, thegriftshop.com, and you send it as a redirect back to forlibertyshop.com. So visit the Grift Shop like Robbie did. Get yourself some delicious For Liberty and unpack all those conspiracy theories about how amazing all of our products are. Joining us now right today is Republican strategist, comms ninja, veteran swamp watcher, Liz Mair. Welcome back to the show. It's been quite some time. Liz, hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Liz, Kevin Spacey. Yes, Kevin Spacey of Call of Duty, the greatest video game of all time fame. That's what everybody knows him from. Some people might have heard of the great British remake House of Cards, the British version, even better. But
I still go with the usual suspects personally, but that's my own preference. And also Margin Call. I think he was great in Margin Call.
One might think that. I couldn't possibly comment. Liz, Kevin Spacey demands the Epstein files to be released. I guess he's like, I'm not the worst person on this list. Why do you think he's doing this?
That's largely what my response was when I saw the tweet. I mean, yeah, great. Finally, we're going to have another really big sex scandal that doesn't involve Kevin Spacey, because I think his thing, I mean, I don't know. I'm sitting here talking to you from London. My recollection is that without being the major celebrity watcher in the household, that would be my husband, actually. My recollection is that Kevin Spacey got himself into a lot of trouble, having interesting conversations with young men down in Clapham Common, south of the river, which is, carries a certain sort of reputation and cachet with it, shall we say. So yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. Let's do it. Go for it. I guess it'll help Kevin Spacey, perhaps. We'll see.
Do you think it's strange, though, that Trump is kind of like now, they all campaigned on this. Remember, Trump campaigned on this. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, they all campaigned on this one, and now they want us all to shut up and be quiet. I mean, I'm not the big conspiracy theorist guy in the libertarian movement here in the United States. I kind of frequently, I'm honestly like, I'm very unpopular because I don't do the whole conspiracy thing for the most part, but this seems like a gosh darn conspiracy.
I mean, so part of me, the never Trumpy aspect of me definitely is laughing at the fact that this was deployed so much in the context of campaigns to sort of move people onto Trump's side. And now they either don't have the goods or they won't release the goods or whatever. I mean, so it's kind of blowing up in their faces a little bit. Although I will also say my personal observation is that as much as there are people in the MAGA base who are upset about this, the main people that I see actually going nuts about this online, it is still really Democrats and never Trumpy Republicans. And so I'm not sure how much we'll see. I mean, I'm not sure that Trump's made the wrong call politically yet about not releasing whatever they've got. Substantively, maybe he has. I mean, I think the clip you played is not entirely wrong. I mean, you could release names and there could be people who, suddenly are treated as Epstein clients and pedophiles who actually were neither. Their name just popped up incidentally and people sort of take things and run with it in the wrong direction. It's also possible that there's really not much new in there that we don't already know because a lot of the names that were associated with Epstein already have been thrown out there in the press, right? But in any event, I guess it's a sort of fun, bread and circuses spectacle for everybody to watch in the interim.
In some ways, I mean, I don't know if you saw the movie Sound of Freedom that came out a year or two ago, the Jim Caviezel film that talked about the breaking up of the child trafficking ring in South America. I mean, you've run in elite circles. I don't know if you remember Madison Cawthorn. He was
I do remember Madison Cawthorn. Yes, indeed. Yes,
okay.
Indeed.
Here's the thing. I don't think Madison Cawthorn did anything wrong other than get caught with his pants down from a video in college where he was just acting all college-y and stuff. But I mean, Republican cocaine orgies, it's just Tuesday in Washington, D.C. So, I mean, they went after him for calling out what the kind of libertine behavior that is commonplace amongst the elites. Is it really that far of a stretch to think that some of them don't think that they should have access to children?
I want to say yes, it's too far a stretch, but I don't really know. I mean, I guess that's why people want to see it because they want to find out. My suspicion is that you're probably going to find that it is less people in the political sphere and a lot more people in the business sphere. That would be my personal guess. We could be wrong. I don't know. I mean, we just don't know. I guess that's the basic point is people don't know. They want to know. And we're going to see if Trump is sort of forced to cave on this. I mean, I will say, if you look at sort of the statistics that psychiatrists, psychologists, social sciences put out there as to how prevalent pedophilia is, I mean, you got to think on the sheer numbers that there are at least a few people from both parties in the political elite who fall into this category. I mean, that's just kind of the odds, right? That's the math.
Now, Liz, we're all getting called a Democrat now for wanting to have a little bit more information, a little bit more transparency on this one. To me, I always saw this as kind of like the conspiracy boomerang. A lot of people who built up their followings and who built up their political power on the basis of conspiracy theories, the boomerang is coming back to hit them. So now I'm really pushing as hard as I can for people who called for this to get it out there, and for people, because now, of course, you've got the people who are the simps for the regime, who are out there who are going to who believed one thing last week and who now believe something completely different this week. So I think for me, this is a big opportunity, in the demanding of transparency, to hold people to their own stated principles and beliefs, or to expose them for the attention seekers that they really are.
Well, I think that's true, but also I would say, I mean, Donald Trump is never going to be relying on my counsel. I would also say, in 2015, 2016, I was one of the main people leading opposition research efforts into Donald Trump and looking into this. And I had people repeatedly come to me and say, whether it was prospective donors, never Trump bigwigs, whatever, all of these people came to me and said, oh, we've seen like pictures of him with Epstein. Can you look into that? And we did look into that. And okay, admittedly, I didn't have like Epstein's flight logs because, well, that's the whole point of this conversation, right? But from everything I looked into, I really don't think that Donald Trump's name is on a client list. I don't think that there's anything to hide here. I mean, my impression when we dug, and we dug relatively deeply, I think, my impression really was that Donald Trump socialized with a lot of people who inserted themselves into elite Manhattan party circles, right? Like, this is not news. But when you look at Donald Trump's MO, I mean, I think when he was asked about Epstein originally years ago, he made the comment that, well, yeah, Epstein was into like teenage girls. I wasn't. My thing has always been like hot 23-year-old blondes. And I think actually when you look at who Donald Trump has married, even some of the very weird and creepy comments he's made about Ivanka, like, he's pretty clearly into like hot 23-year-old blondes, not like 13-year-olds. So that's my personal interpretation. I don't know, maybe it'll come out and I'll be proven wrong, but I don't think Donald Trump has anything to fear from this. That's my gut instinct. As much as I think Democrats and never Trumpers are making this into, ooh, he won't release it because he's a secret pedophile, whatever. I don't think that's actually true. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we won't. But right now, I don't think that the political pressure on him is quite enough to force the administration's hand. It might change.
Well, Liz, I love hearing your take on this one. I think the word "never Trumper" drives some people here in the States, especially like a right-wing audience, into tizzy. They have like anti-Trump derangement syndrome in many ways. But I like listening to people from all different sides of things. And I did support Donald Trump because I liked the idea of the bull in the china shop. I'm still a little bit psycho-libertarian in many ways. But the thing that has really irked me more than tariffs, more than the Epstein flip-flop stuff, is the driving away of Elon Musk. Because
I agree with that.
100%. Nobody sacrificed more to try and get Donald Trump across the finish line other than Donald Trump himself than Elon Musk. He's burned his reputation to the ground, spent billions of dollars to buy X so that we could have at least one free speech social platform. This guy, not only is he getting attacked here in the United States and getting pushed out, but it looks like he's getting attacked by governments overseas as well. You sent me this story about what France is trying to do to him. You want to share this with us?
Yeah, so very much so. So France is, just to give a little bit of history here, over the last few months, France has been getting itself in an increasingly pigeonholed position where they really seem to be going after a lot of social networks and a lot of communications networks. First, they did this with Telegram. I know that there are lots of assertions that Telegram is secretly funneling data and information back to the Kremlin. I don't know. Maybe they are. What I know about Telegram is that it is a network that actually is used by a lot of critics of the Putin regime to do honest, actual reporting about what's happening to Russian forces in Ukraine, and then getting that into Russia in front of actual Russian voices and Russian voters who otherwise wouldn't have access to it, because you do have state-controlled media there, right? But France, for whatever reason, has decided to target Telegram, probably because Telegram has hosted a whole bunch of speech that France considers to be contrary to its national interest, notably in Romania with elections they had recently, and some particular political players that were perceived as being anti-EU. Of course, France is one of the two dominant players in the EU. So that's kind of been what's happened. Now it appears that France is moving into targeting Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it. I'm still going to call it Twitter. I don't care what Elon brands it as. And ostensibly, the sort of criminal focus of the investigation is stuff where, yeah, I mean, nobody's going to say if somebody's like thieving or doing improper data extraction or fraud or, any of those sorts of things, that shouldn't be investigated as a crime. But when you look at where the reports are coming from, it's coming from French MP, French government official who's in some, high ranking. We don't really have the sourcing on that, but definitely sounds like it's coming out of the French executive branch. And it does look an awful lot like France, again, is targeting a network that contains content that it simply doesn't like. And the allegation here is that these people who were sort of the tipsters in this instance are upset about quote unquote foreign interference in France's politics. Well, I mean, obviously it's owned by Elon Musk, who is an American citizen. So I suppose to the extent that it's allowing speech that's critical of the French government or French politicians that they don't like, I guess it's interference. I guess it's foreign interference in France. But it sure looks like they're again using sort of the powers of the state to act as a cudgel against free speech, which sadly is becoming a real trend. And it is something I think Americans should be paying attention to, not just because if these efforts succeed, it could actually start having an impact on communications tools and social media that we're using, but also because you have had this trend of Europeans trying to go in and get American legislation and American regulation to copycat their approach on tech. This has actually been seen most prominently probably from the UK, where I'm talking to you from. You have a member of the House of Lords here, Baroness Kidron, who has been doing quite a lot of lobbying, mostly like in California on the state level, but also working with sponsors of the Kids Online Safety Act, which sounds really benign, but really isn't. In the United States Congress, she has been working with them to try to impose a whole bunch of regulation that would impact all manner of social media that we use. And she's probably in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act on my read. I don't think she's done anything to rectify that. But in any event, she's actively trying to shape US regulation and legislation. You also have CCDH, which people should Google. They have this STAR framework that is also very tied to what you're seeing with COSA. Incidentally, we all know by looking at that X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it, wouldn't be compliant with it. And then my favorite one of all is we have Prince Harry. So I don't even know if we're calling him British anymore or Canadian. I don't even know where he's living. But in any event, he is affiliated with the Aspen Institute. And they've actually been doing quite a lot. And he's been doing quite a lot, again, to try to sort of, he wouldn't consider it hammering free speech, but it is hammering free speech because his whole focus is, you know, curtailing what is ultimately sort of reported on and violates celebrities' privacy, obviously, given what happened to his mother and how he feels about what happens with him and his wife. I appreciate the point, but I also think when you're born into the royal family, unfortunately, you kind of have to adapt to that by the time that you're whatever age he is and not be.
Yeah, we shouldn't criticize Prince Andrew for his dalliances with Virginia
God knows,
Giuffre.
yes. I mean, I suppose if Prince Harry and all these others were successful with a lot of their efforts, it's quite possible that if the Epstein list were released and we got more information about Prince Andrew, that might actually be a real boon to the royal family in another way. I don't know. But anyway, the point is that there is this trend ongoing. And I think that free speech advocates in particular should be very cautious. I mean, as usual, whenever they say for the children, 90% of people go, oh, yes, anything for the children. And then the 10% of us who are libertarians are like, oh, my God, that's going to be something stealth and horrible. And when we look at it, it's going to be a massive restriction.
It always is. It always is.
It always is.
We have to increase tariffs in order to help the children, the Chinese children.
Exactly.
It's the Chinese slave children.
The Chinese children, but we're also going to make it really expensive to buy baby bottles and strollers and kids' shoes in the process and make it absolute hell for your
I can't tell you how many times I've been told by Republicans lately that I have to sacrifice for the good of the country.
I know. Yes. I get it all the time. And, you know, I'm a patriotically minded person, too. But when you're on the third pair of very expensive football shoes or soccer cleats that you're buying in 1 year. And, you know, when I had to do that exercise when the tariff hit 148%, yeah, sorry. I don't know. At a certain point, you know, basic kitchen table economics and wallet matters start outranking a lot of other concerns very rapidly.
That's Liz Mair, at Liz Mair, over on Twitter/X. Liz, anything else you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
Nope, that's it. Go Arsenal.
Thanks, Liz. You're awesome. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Everybody should follow you over on X. Hope you have a wonderful day.
All good?
All clear.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
Oh, okay. It's certainly not hyperbolic. Also, I want to respond to you saying that I was hyperbolic when I talked about a reign of terror.
That is hyperbolic.
No, it might be hyperbolic for you as a white man.
Oh, okay.
It's certainly not hyperbolic for me as a Latino. No, I'm not being racist.
It's to dismiss my opinion for being a white man.
No, I'm not dismissing your opinion. I am telling you that the Latino community, the brown community in America.
Speak in one voice.
Okay, well, let me speak with my voice. I mean, you said I was being hyperbolic. Let me respond.
Racially, sure.
I'm not. You being a white man as an insult?
When you invoke it to dismiss my
being a white man as an insult?
When you invoke it,
do you think Latinos are living under circumstances that other people may not be right now in this country?
We're about to have a whole conversation about that very thing. Mm-hmm. But I just want to make a point that, Brad, all she's saying is that her view of the situation is different from yours.
All she's saying is that you're white, you white piece of stupid white man. All she's saying is that you're Stinking white. Good morning, pineapples. How we doing?
Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
Did you guys like Liz Mair? I thought she's great. She's smart. She's really cool. I follow her over on X. She's got a lot of insidery knowledge. And if you guys aren't following her over on X, you're missing out. Looks like we just, thanks to Joel Ledamore, they're past the $75 bonus content goal. What is the deal with you guys? Are you guys trying to keep the show live streaming? You realize that this September, this podcast, this for-profit podcast started as Wake Up America Show podcast in the back of a bar where people would throw up all over the set. And I would wake up, there would be like drunk lawmakers sitting on a couch across from me at the bar. You realize that that's where this started, and that now this show is now a full-blown network. Here we are almost 3 years later, thanks to people like you. People like Joel Ledamore, people like Rob George, people like Joni Rankin, people in the chat, people like Mighty Megatron, Real Hunter Human, who came along with the Javier Milei days, Dad Bod Baboon, who bought items from the Grift Shop, people like Y2 Joe have been supporting me for freaking ever, people like Rvolt24, who violently disagrees with me on many things, but still manages to show up here anyway. Thank you. You guys are special. I just want you guys to know how much I appreciate you. And Quill Pig Parapet even jumps in every once in a while there. It's nice to see you guys. Every time I see a purchase made at forlibertyshop.com or a Rumble Rant donation in there or somebody becomes a monthly sub, I just want you guys to know how much it means to me personally, because it just, everybody has like their ego tied up as a man, especially into like their job and their career. And to be able to provide for your family and to be able to make sure that you got diapers and bottles, and when you have your windshield cracked because you were driving behind a truck the other day and you got to get your windshield repaired like we did, very expensive replacement, Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace. That you're going to be able to like take care of things, to be able to solve problems, and to be able to do it in one of the most competitive businesses. It's why when I saw somebody was like shitting all over podcasters or something. I was like Razor Fist. I call them Razor Tits just because I'm not the biggest fan, but every once in a while I'm like, oh, that's a good take from Razor Tits. But he's like, I've lost so much respect for the podcast class. Trust me, I get it. But if you're making money from podcasting, especially if you're doing it legit and not just grifting, you're actually like trying to like be a truth teller or do like providing some like interesting service, I got massive respect, because it is so stinking hard, especially if you're a dude like me. If you don't have excellent razor tits, then you're going to have a hard time making money in this profession, doing what I'm doing, trying to grow. But we've been doing it now for 3 freaking years. We've been able to do this. And don't get me wrong, I'm doing a lot. We do things like we've written a children's book, Calvin the Coolest President. A lot of you guys bought that and shared it with your kids. And we do sell amazing coffee, and we do a lot of things to try and keep the show on the air that don't have anything to do with politics necessarily. But there's a lot going on here on the other side of the camera. But note that you guys on the other side of the live chat, the Rumble Ranters, the monthly subs, the people who go to thegriftshop.com and make purchases, dude, it makes a difference. Every single one. Because we're small. We're not huge. But we don't need a majority to succeed. We succeed. We are a keen, irate minority, setting brush fires in the minds of men. We appreciate L-Dubs. We appreciate Robbie, Joni, and Matt Unruh. You guys just unlocked the bonus content. And so you guys, I hope you will enjoy that. Don't forget at 8:30, we have Chris Freiman. He's a professor. He is an economist. He's going to debunk 4 major economic myths for us at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Enjoy the bonus content. Visit the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com, and I'll be right back.
Let's talk about the Department of Education, America's most expensive babysitter for schools, teachers, and kids. Since its creation in 1979, this federal behemoth has spent over $100 billion a year. Yet guess what? Test scores haven't budged. That's right. We've thrown trillions at the problem, and the only thing that's improved is the size of the bureaucracy. Think about that for a second. Trillions spent, millions of kids served, and for what? Stagnant test scores, a skyrocketing pile of paperwork, and a government agency so huge it makes the DMV look like a mom-and-pop shop. Meanwhile, teachers spend more time filling out forms than teaching, and students are stuck with stagnant, sometimes even declining test scores. Enter President Trump, who's aiming a wrecking ball at this government monster. His plan? Shut the whole thing down and hand power back to the states, local communities, and yes, parents. Finally, a president who gets it. Education is not a Washington, D.C. problem. It's a family and community problem. Trump has called the department a nest of radicals pushing a woke agenda and has promised to give the power back to the people. He's already started cutting staff, laying off over a third of the department's workforce, and shifting programs to other agencies. But the real goal is to close the department entirely. That will require Congress, but the momentum is building. Why should we cheer? Because the Department of Education is unconstitutional. The Constitution never mentions education. It leaves that to the states. Yet this federal giant controls billions, micromanages classrooms, forces schools to jump through hoops, and demands mountains of paperwork. All this federal meddling is justified as helping kids, but in reality, it's mostly bureaucratic overreach, power grabs, and wasted dollars. Remember Reagan? He promised to dismantle the department in the 80s. He slashed budgets and block-granted funds to states, but Congress never gave him the full shutdown. The GOP platform in the 90s doubled down on abolition, yet here we are with the same bloated bureaucratic beast. Trump's plan is the next chapter, actually trying to make it happen. Yes, there are legal battles. Courts are wrestling with whether a president can dismantle an agency Congress created. The Supreme Court recently said trimming staff is the president's prerogative, but killing the agency outright? That's Congress's job. So Trump's administration is chipping away at the edges, making the department an empty shell while lawmakers debate. If the department closes, states get more control. That means local education tailored to local values, fewer federal mandates, and more parental choice. Want to ban woke nonsense? States can do it. Want more school choice or vouchers? States can do that too. It's freedom and accountability for once. Critics worry about chaos, gaps in civil rights enforcement, and funding disruptions. Sure, change is messy. But what's the alternative? Keeping a bloated, ineffective bureaucracy that spends more time regulating than educating? That's the real mess. Look at the numbers. Since the department's birth, federal spending per student has doubled, yet test scores remain flat or worse. Graduation rates barely move. Illiteracy rates still stubbornly high. We're throwing money down a black hole. And the bureaucracy? It's grown like a weed. Non-teaching staff have exploded by over 700% since 1950, while the share of actual teachers dropped. More administrators, more paperwork, less teaching. That's the department's legacy. Trump's gun rights supporters cheer his move to abolish unconstitutional taxes on suppressors and short-barreled rifles buried in other legislation. This department has long been a roadblock to liberty. Closing the Department of Education won't solve every problem overnight, but it's a necessary first step. It's time to stop wasting trillions, stop federal overreach, and restore education to where it belongs, in the hands of families and communities. The real win is putting parents back in charge. Parents who can't afford fancy schools or private tutors shouldn't be stuck with a federal system that's failed them for decades. School choice isn't a buzzword, it's a lifeline. Empower families to choose schools that align with their values and needs. That's real education reform. So here's the deal. Celebrate the win for local control, demand Congress do its job, and watch the Department of Education's bureaucratic empire crumble. The kids and taxpayers deserve better.
You know, AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test. at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. And
If you got a sense of humor, you got to laugh at that, man. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. I got to get one of those horns. All right, it's time to talk about a voice that reaches more people than CNN, MSNBC, and The View combined. Joe Rogan. This week, Joe Rogan took off the gloves, landed a clean shot right across the jaw of the Epstein walkback. And you know what? He's not wrong. Take a listen.
They got videotape, and all of a sudden they don't. You know, you have the director of the FBI on this show saying there's no tape. If there was, nothing you're looking for is on those tapes. Like, what? Why did they say there was thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible shit? Why did they say that?
Right.
Didn't Pam Bondi say that?
What, are you talking about Epstein or Diddy?
Yeah, Epstein.
Yeah, she said it literally, I think, a week before you had the FBI director sitting here telling you there was nothing, right?
She said something about that there was like thousands of hours of tapes of people doing horrible crimes.
There is. And didn't the FBI dude say that there was nothing?
Cash Patel said there's nothing you're looking for. Oh, okay. Okay. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to push back.
Right. No, of course. I
obviously, he's saying what he has to say.
Right.
Mystery surrounds the Jeffrey Epstein files after Bondi claims tens of thousands of videos. Tens of thousands. Jesus Christ.
I'll tell you what.
Oh, my God. Was reviewing tens of thousands of videos, the wealthy financier with children or child porn. The comment made to reporters at the White House days after a similar remark to a stranger with a hidden camera raised the stakes for President Donald Trump's administration to prove it has in its possession previously unseen compelling documents, or just bomb Iran, and everybody forgets.
Just bomb Iran, yeah.
Bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb Iran. If you just sang Bomb Iran, congratulations, you're gay. Just kidding. Nothing gay about the Beach Boys. Or is there? So on his latest podcast, Joe Rogan ripped into the DOJ and FBI for their reversal. First, we were told there were thousands of hours, tens of thousands of hours of videos involving Epstein and his associates, videos allegedly showing horrific crimes. Now suddenly, no list. Poof, no footage, nothing to see here. Joe Rogan says they've got videotape and all of a sudden they don't. Didn't Pam Bondi say that? Bondi. Yes, Joe, she did say that. On July 1st, Bondi told reporters that the FBI was reviewing tens of thousands of videos. Not a list, tapes, right? Now she's just claiming that she meant something else. A file, not tapes, not a list, not the good stuff, just a file, probably in a dusty drawer next to the JFK files. You guys remember that? You guys remember when we were going to audit Fort Knox? Man, they were going in there. Doge was going to go in there. They were going to go in there with a live stream. Thomas Massey was going to be right there behind him. Senator Rand Paul and them, all behind Trump. Everybody had gotten behind. Elon was going to be there. We were all going to go in. They were going to send Glenn Jacobs in to knock out the guards if he had to and stuff like that. I was going to be in there, karate chopping all of them. Judo chop, right? Oh, Austin. But no audit of Fort Knox. The thousands of hours of videos, they were just files. They're horrific, terrible, horrible videos of child, but they will never be released or see the light of day. This is not a cover-up. This is a joke. Bad actors and one good actor, Kevin Spacey, who says that the list should be released. Now, Rogan endorsed Trump ahead of the 2024 election, right? Now Rogan's fuming because Trump made Epstein transparency a campaign promise. And of course, Rogan, I won't say he's the king of conspiracies, but he's a duke, perhaps, of conspiracies. We'll give him the duke crown, whatever dukes wear. But do you remember the February press conference, the Epstein files, phase 1? Does everybody remember the conservative influencers who showed up to the White House holding up Epstein phase 1, right? So they talk about starting something and not finishing it. We've all been there. They all held up the binders like it was the Watergate 2.0, but nothing new came out. No phase 2. Zip. Nada. I always thought that a phase 1 would by default have a phase 2, but they should have called it phase none. Is that... And now Rogan says what a lot of people are thinking, just bomb Iran and everybody forgets. Ouch, that stings. But again, is he wrong? Last month, the Trump administration launched strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, which, yes, might have been justified in a national security sense, but the timing, convenient. Rogan's calling it a distraction tactic, and the base is starting to agree. So let me ask you, the people who are watching right now, do you think that Trump's strikes on Iran were timed to make you forget about Epstein? Do you still trust Pam Bondi to deliver transparency? Is Joe Rogan right to hold Trump's feet to the fire, even as a supporter? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. See that phone number at the bottom of the screen? Look at that. Watch me tickle these numbers. 57. Let me tickle the 5. Let me tickle the 7. Look at me tickle the numbers right there. They're laughing. I wish I could make it like boop. There's got to be a way. I could probably do that, but I'm not. I'm too lazy right now. 573-319. I'm trying to get this right. 1586. There we go. I touched each number. Tickled them. Program them in your phone. Send me a text at 573-319-1586. One listener yesterday sent me a text message about the AutoPen scandal show that I was discussing. He says he was finally listening to yesterday's show about the AutoPen debacle. A couple of key points that I've heard about. Not only could everything signed with that AutoPen be overturned as it stands, but from what I understand, Jill Biden forges Joe's signature often. And it's actually Jill Biden's forged signature that the AutoPen uses, which then means that anything official that has a signature on it, not just AutoPen, is null and void, and something this scandalous should be met with severe punishment. It should. But Michael, we're talking about the government here. There is no accountability in the U.S. government, and it's not going to happen. So again, send me a text at that text line where Michael just texted me at 573-319-1586. That's the text line again, 573-319-1586. I'm excited about my next guest. It's going to be his very first time here on the Wake Up America show. I'm looking forward to hearing from Chris Freiman. He's an economist and a professor. He's going to talk to us today about debunking some of the major economic myths that most people are believing today. 4 economic myths. Professor Chris Freiman, he's an economist and a truth teller at West Virginia University's John Chambers College of Business Economics. He's going to be joining us live today in 20 minutes here on the Wake Up America show. You don't want to miss Chris Freiman. So if you've got something that you have to do, you got to put a kid back to sleep in the morning, or you got to get them ready for something, or pack a lunch, or do whatever it is that people who wake up this early and watch shows like these do, typically to get prepared for 1, having a job, 2, having a family, 3, having responsibilities. Come back in 20 minutes. Get it done. Get your, you can leave me on in the background so that we get the views. Thank you. But come back at least in 20 minutes so that you can hear from Chris Freiman. I've been going over and above and beyond the Call of Duty lately, if you haven't realized, to get you all these new names and faces to kind of keep the show fresh, adding new content, adding new commercials, upgrading absolutely everything. And it's been really paying off. The traffic on Facebook has been wild. We've been seeing numbers on our socials that I have not seen in years. Part of it, I think, too, is that Instagram and Meta in general has kind of taken the boot off of our neck to a certain extent with some of our messaging. And I actually attribute that to the rise of Donald Trump, the second Trump term, with where many of these billionaires came on board and even spent money on the inauguration. And trying to get in Trump's good graces. They're not censoring his supporters as much as they used to. So I'm guessing that one of the reasons why our socials have really taken off in part is due to the release of the suppression of censorship. But also, we have really stepped up our game. I mean, when we brought Brad Beckman on last fall, Brad is my assistant, and he and I used to work together at the radio station here in Jefferson City. I didn't know, if I was going to be able to afford. I mean, hiring an employee is expensive. You got to pay payroll taxes on top of everything. And he started off as temporary, and then he quickly became indispensable. And he's almost been here almost a year in October. That's gonna be his 1 year anniversary. Being a boss is tough, but we've made it work. And again, thanks to the financial support of the contributions of people like yourself visiting our shop and making Rumble Rant donations and being monthly subs, makes it so that we can have an assistant over here. But Brad has played a big part in helping us to grow the show. So if you guys see BB for Liberty in the chat, make sure you pat him on the back because he's doing a good job. And I'm really thankful to have him here because it's in large part due to what Brad has been doing on the social side that has been helping to lift up the numbers in the traffic, which is also been attributed to a slight increase in revenue that we've seen from social networks. Whereas before we had been, and I'm still demonetized on YouTube, but whereas before we couldn't earn money on Instagram, we couldn't earn money on Facebook, we couldn't earn money on X. But it feels, and this is to some extent, this is a little bit up in the air, but it feels like I'm really gaining traction. And I say that because you have to kind of put your money where your mouth is at some point, right? It's not just about gaming the systems to get to tell them exactly what they want, although there is a certain aspect of gamification of the social networks in order to get the outputs. But take a look at this post from yesterday. This is the president of the 8th largest country in the world. This is Javier Milei on his official X account. Not only just retweeting me, just reposting onto his page what I said, but actually commenting on my post, sharing it out to his millions of followers here yesterday. Fenomeno Burial, the great Javier Milei. Fenomeno Burial. Here we have the president of the 8th largest country. I think you guys just don't quite understand how enormous this is. It's huge. And I'm super grateful for everybody. I know many of the people who are actually in the stream right now, maybe Mighty Megatron, but also definitely Real Hunter Human are here from Argentina, I'm pretty sure. Let's give it up. I'm pretty sure, if you go to my analytics, I don't know if I want to open them up live for you here right now. Actually, probably shouldn't do that. But if you go to my analytics, let me see it, because I'm going to put up the part where you guys are from, the audience. There we go. I'll definitely show you that. Yeah, check this out. This will make you laugh. Okay, check this out. So this is because of Javier Milei, but if you look at my audience, this is my analytics. See, number 1, United States, 71.6%. Number 2 is Argentina at 13.9%. Right there. So for a long time, for years and years, my audience was like 80 to 90% American. And then it would be like 2% Canada, 3% UK, other English-speaking countries. But now it's US, Argentina, and like that is a significant amount of people. US, Argentina, Canada, Germany, Brazil. Let's give it up for Argentina. Let's give it up for Javier Milei. And let's give it up for the For Liberty Network and for all the people who are doing good things. People like Daniela Pensack, people like Brian Piotr, people like Brad Beckman, people like my lovely wife, Stephanie Peterson, the king of all libertarians. And of course, all of our supporters out there as well. Because the Wake Up America show, the For Liberty Network, all of this, it wouldn't exist without Andy Opperman. It wouldn't exist without L-Dubs, Luttrell. It wouldn't exist without Quest Fanning. Absolutely not would not exist without Quest Fanning. It would not exist without Kermode Bear. It would not exist without you and all of your financial contributions, clicking like and following, which, by the way, this is a good reminder. Did you click the like button? You forgot to click the like button? What's wrong with you?
God! No! God, please, no! No! No!
No, don't be that way. Make sure you're clicking that like button. And of course, if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. We're getting a lot of viewers, not just over on Rumble where we're streaming live, but we get a lot of views over on X as well. If you're on X and you're saying, wow, that sounds like a really great community, I would like to be a part of it, then make your way over from from X to Rumble at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. That's rumble.com/AP for Liberty. I've pulled you up right now. I see you over there. 768 views or whatever the measurement is on X. It's very obscure. But if you're watching us over on X right now, I'm watching you watching me over on X right now, and you're live while I'm live watching you live. It's the liveception. So I see you over here watching me on X. Why watch me on X when you could watch me over on Rumble. Here's what you do. Go over to rumble.com/AP4Liberty. That's rumble.com/AP4Liberty. See that live stream down there? See where it says pull up the Epstein files? Look at all these fun people here. Oh, look, it's the live section. If you head over here, you can join the live chat over on the right-hand side. You see people like Amy J. Eves, Mighty Megatron, Robbie Thurman, Nelson65, Y2 Joe, Dad Bod Baboon. Look at all these fun people. And Quest Fanning dropping tips in the tip jar. Aww. Sweet Caroline, bum, bum, bum. Steelbringer joining us live there. That's my friend Joel. He's awesome. But join us over at Rumble, rumble.com/AP4Liberty, guys. Why not? Because it's the best place to be. Why don't you join us over at rumble.com/AP4Liberty? That's rumble.com/AP4Liberty.
If I told you how bullish I was, you wouldn't believe it. I have never been more excited about the future of America than I am right now. Right this time. For a lot of reasons. Number one, like it or not, this guy's getting things done.
This guy meeting President Donald Trump?
Trump. He's a little pissed off at me because I had the audacity to say that on television about a few months ago that I was worried about it if he won that he'd engage in retribution. I'm happy to say I'm comfortable he's not doing that. He's acting presidential. I'm impressed with the people he's got around him. I had a nice.
Does he gargle with Jack Daniels and Marlboros in the morning? Remember when people would just casually smoke Marlboro Red cigarettes every day? Those were the days. NBC News now running cover for Biden and the auto pen scandal.
An unexpected new twist in the investigation into former President Biden's use of the auto pen. Let's bring in NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent.
Let's bring in our propagandist in chief,
Ryan Nobles. What's going on there?
Well, Chris, NBC News conducted an analysis of the communications that the chair of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, has used to bring in former members of the Biden White House to ask them questions about Biden's use of the auto pen and his cognitive decline in office. And what we discovered is that of the 16 letters that Comer sent to these staffers, that they were all signed with the use of a digital signature, meaning that he did not actually sign these documents himself, similar to what he's accusing President Biden of not doing. Now, what he did do was use a wet signature, as it's called, for the actual subpoena requests for two Biden officials, including the White House physician Kevin O'Connor. But everything else was used with a digital signature. Now, that's not to say any of that is out of bounds. In fact, it's pretty common practice, not only in Congress, but in the executive branch, to use digital signatures or signatures that are not necessarily by the hand of the official who is signing them. But it is the crux of this investigation that the Oversight Committee is conducting, that somehow Biden's use of an auto pen or a signature that was not by his own hand thereby makes whatever he signed be invalid. And what we discovered over the course of this report is that the central tenet of this investigation is trying to determine whether or not Biden's use of an auto pen was because he was not in control of the decisions that were being made. And in an interview with the New York Times, Biden made it clear that he authorized all the clemency decisions that were handed down by his administration, even though he did allude to the fact that perhaps not all of them were signed with his actual hand. Of course, Chris, this is just the beginning of this investigation by the House Oversight Committee. They plan to call in a number of Biden officials to get to the core of this question. When Biden said that I want something done, was it signed by him or someone else? And is that a reflection of his cognitive decline while in office? That is still something that they've yet to definitively prove. Chris?
Yeah, that is such a... Ooh. Yeah, that's, I mean, when the press is running those kinds of stories, that somebody in the former administration is definitely scared. You know what scares me?
Congressman Hank Johnson coming to give you some more ear candy or perhaps an earache, but I'm going to do my best off of this Jason Isbell tune, Dreamsicle.
Epstein died by suicide. Believe that, and you must be blind. You've been telling us you released the file, but where are they? We've gone along with what's been told. We've had plenty of time, you're in control. But when you say you will withhold the Epstein file, dreamsicle on a summer night in a folding armchair. Trump's howling at the moon. Release the Epstein file soon.
Why do you watch this show? Why do you watch the Wake Up America show? You know, I know why. That's why, because we got the best. We got the best stuff. That congressman that you just saw was famously noted for this famous clip. Take a listen here. Oh, well, hold on. I got to get that freaking stinking YouTube thing set up where you don't have to watch the commercials. Here we go.
Island.
This is that same congressman.
This is a island that at its widest level is 12 miles from shore to shore, and at its smallest level or smallest location, it's 7 miles wide between one shore and the other. Is that correct?
I don't have the exact dimensions, but to your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very small island, and about 24 miles, if I recall, long. So 24 miles long, about 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island.
This is who people are voting for.
And
this is their best, by the way, from Georgia. This is in his Congress. He's the smartest guy.
I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can
He's
certainly
talking to a naval admiral there.
Apply it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that. The Guam population, I think, currently about 175,000, and again, with 8,000 Marines and their families, it's an addition of about 25,000 more into the population.
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and
This bill, which shows that this Tea Party Congress will make the tough choice to keep children's birthday parties on schedule and give industries that rely on helium the lift that they deserve. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, a world without balloons.
No, not a world without balloons. No, I can't have a world without balloons. Thank you to Andy Opperman. Bless me with something. He blessed me with something money-wise. Now I'm going to bless you with something, a guest that you've never seen nor heard from before. Chris Freiman joining us live in less than 5. The bonus content is unlocked. You're supporting the Wake Up America show with your financial contributions. You're going to thegriftshop.com. You're clicking the like button. You're clicking the comment button. You don't need to watch another show. These are not the droids you're looking for. That is not Walmart.com or Amazon.com that you'll be visiting. It's thegriftshop.com that you shall only visit forevermore. We shall be back with debunking some economic myths. We'll be right back.
Let's talk about the Department of Education, America's most expensive babysitter for schools, teachers, and kids. Since its creation in 1979, this federal behemoth has spent over $100 billion a year. Yet guess what? Test scores haven't budged. That's right. We've thrown trillions at the problem, and the only thing that's improved is the size of the bureaucracy. Think about that for a second. Trillions spent, millions of kids served, and for what? Stagnant test scores, a skyrocketing pile of paperwork, and a government agency so huge it makes the DMV look like a mom-and-pop shop. Meanwhile, teachers spend more time filling out forms than teaching, and students are stuck with stagnant, sometimes even declining test scores. Enter President Trump, who's aiming a wrecking ball at this government monster. His plan? Shut the whole thing down and hand power back to the states, local communities, and yes, parents. Finally, a president who gets it. Education is not a Washington, D.C. problem. It's a family and community problem. Trump has called the department a nest of radicals pushing a woke agenda and has promised to give the power back to the people. He's already started cutting staff, laying off over a third of the department's workforce, and shifting programs to other agencies. But the real goal is to close the department entirely. That will require Congress, but the momentum is building. Why should we cheer? Because the Department of Education is unconstitutional. The Constitution never mentions education. It leaves that to the states. Yet this federal giant controls billions, micromanages classrooms, forces schools to jump through hoops, and demands mountains of paperwork. All this federal meddling is justified as helping kids, but in reality, it's mostly bureaucratic overreach, power grabs, and wasted dollars. Remember Reagan? He promised to dismantle the department in the 80s. He slashed budgets and block-granted funds to states, but Congress never gave him the full shutdown. The GOP platform in the 90s doubled down on abolition, yet here we are with the same bloated bureaucratic beast. Trump's plan is the next chapter, actually trying to make it happen. Yes, there are legal battles. Courts are wrestling with whether a president can dismantle an agency Congress created. The Supreme Court recently said trimming staff is the president's prerogative, but killing the agency outright? That's Congress's job. So Trump's administration is chipping away at the edges, making the department an empty shell while lawmakers debate. If the department closes, states get more control. That means local education tailored to local values, fewer federal mandates, and more parental choice. Want to ban woke nonsense? States can do it. Want more school choice or vouchers? States can do that too. It's freedom and accountability for once. Critics worry about chaos, gaps in civil rights enforcement, and funding disruptions. Sure, change is messy. But what's the alternative? Keeping a bloated, ineffective bureaucracy that spends more time regulating than educating? That's the real mess. Look at the numbers. Since the department's birth, federal spending per student has doubled, yet test scores remain flat or worse. Graduation rates barely move. Illiteracy rates still stubbornly high. We're throwing money down a black hole. And the bureaucracy? It's grown like a weed. Non-teaching staff have exploded by over 700% since 1950, while the share of actual teachers dropped. More administrators, more paperwork, less teaching. That's the department's legacy. Trump's gun rights supporters cheer his move to abolish unconstitutional taxes on suppressors and short-barreled rifles buried in other legislation. This department has long been a roadblock to liberty. Closing the Department of Education won't solve every problem overnight, but it's a necessary first step. It's time to stop wasting trillions, stop federal overreach, and restore education to where it belongs, in the hands of families and communities. The real win is putting parents back in charge. Parents who can't afford fancy schools or private tutors shouldn't be stuck with a federal system that's failed them for decades. School choice isn't a buzzword, it's a lifeline. Empower families to choose schools that align with their values and needs. That's real education reform. So here's the deal. Celebrate the win for local control, demand Congress do its job, and watch the Department of Education's bureaucratic empire crumble. The kids and taxpayers deserve better.
You know, AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test. Anyway, have a good time.
I feel like this is his chance for him to say. But she does have a great set of cans. Good morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin. Doesn't it sound like the next thing that he would say? I stole that joke from Dad Bod Baboon in the chat earlier. I know you guys make the best jokes. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. It's time to rise and freedom. Glad and thankful to have people like Amy J. E's here, Mighty Megatron, Quest Fanning, Grizz Cheese, so many others in the chat. Thank you all for your generosity. You all just unlocked the bonus content thanks to all of your financial contributions here on the show. Now, you know me, I'm kind of a nerd. I don't mind talking about the Epstein stuff, and I like talking about some of the other issues, but big brain time is usually when on Wednesdays we get together, we talk about higher order issues. Today we're going to talk about economics. We don't have Judge Andrew Napolitano, so I brought another big brain guest on to fill in the gaps. He's going to debunk some economic myths. Joining me now, Professor Chris Freiman, economist and truth teller at West Virginia University's John Chambers College of Business and Economics. Chris, good to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I don't know. I didn't realize I was the big brain segment. I think maybe you made a mistake, but I don't know. I'll do my best.
Austin doesn't make mistakes, but if he does, then they go the place where the Epstein list is. So, Chris, glad to have you here. You're an economist. You're a truth teller. You're here to separate fact from fiction today. That's what we need. I want to know why you say that it is a myth that the poor are getting poorer in America, because everybody else is telling me that things are getting worse, right wing, left wing, this country is going to hell in a handbasket, and the poor are getting poorer, and the rich are getting richer. Tucker Carlson said it last week. Your reaction?
Yeah, thank you. I should say I'm actually a political philosopher who's just economically literate enough to get into trouble, but happy to dispel some economic myths. So yeah, so it is sort of interesting that you see this rhetoric on the right and the left, that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, but it's just not true. So, so we're doing the big brain stuff, I guess. I'll get a little bit philosophical. So here's this question that we have to ask before we can answer the question, are the poor getting poorer? What does it mean to be poor? What does it mean to be rich? And basically what it means to be rich is to have the ability to consume a lot of stuff. And what it means to be poor is to lack that ability to consume a lot of stuff. And so once you understand what poverty is, this sort of inability to consume goods and services, you can see that in fact, the poor are getting richer over time. So the goods and services that, in particular, the American poor are able to consume today versus what they were able to consume in 1950 or 1980 or even the year 2000, the quantity and the quality has increased. And one way of kind of getting at this idea is by looking at what some economists call the time price of goods. So you just say, look, how many hours or how many minutes would the typical American have to work to buy a loaf of bread in 1980? And I'm just making up this number. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but the general gist of this is right. So in 1980, it might have cost the typical worker, 24 minutes. At work to buy a loaf of bread. Now it's something like 12 minutes. And so the paycheck that the American poor are receiving today versus 20 years ago, 40 years ago, just buys them a lot more stuff.
So people aren't getting poorer, but the media and politician needs them to feel poor to sell socialism, essentially?
So I think this is a really interesting question, is why is this narrative so popular? And my hunch is that, look, if you say the world is getting worse, the economy is getting worse, everybody is getting poorer except for a handful of billionaires, then it does make it an easier sell to say, look, we have to overhaul the system. We have to destroy the system. We have to implement something like democratic socialism. We have to tax billionaires out of existence, all this stuff. The system is horrible. Therefore, we have to destroy it and build something new. That kind of vision becomes a much easier sell if you can convince people that their lives are bad and getting worse.
So it's easier to justify bad policy if the public feels like they're victims?
Or just in general that their life is getting worse, and not just slightly worse, but much, much worse. And it's not the sort of thing that we can fix with small reforms. we have to tear down the entire system, destroy capitalism, implement socialism. If people actually knew that they were much richer today than they were 40 years ago, they might say, hey, this capitalist system is pretty good. Lots of room for improvement. I mean, I'm the first person to say there are lots of ways we could make the situation better, but we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Capitalism is great. It makes everyone richer. We could do more to make our system more capitalist, but the solution is to reform capitalism, make it a bit more free, deregulate all these sorts of things that I'm sure you know about, rather than throw out the entire system in favor of socialism.
Well, I hear a lot of right-wingers these days actually crossing over and saying things like Bernie Sanders is actually right, and that they may not agree with the left on social issues, but what I hear from Tucker Carlson, Peter Navarro, Howard Lutnick, and Josh Hawley, and many others on the right these days, is that Bernie Sanders, AOC, they're actually right. They're not actually raising the minimum wage high enough. And one of the things that they point to, and this has a lot of right-wing Zoomers, especially beating the drum of central planning, is that no one can afford houses anymore. They talk about how earlier generations used to be able to purchase a house with a single person's income, and they could take care of an entire household and afford a really nice house. And now the American dream, literally home ownership, is out of reach for many people, not able to purchase their houses until they turn 90 years old. And that's why so many young people, including right-wingers, are embracing more central planning ideals and blaming shadowy conspiracies like BlackRock. How would you react or respond to that?
So that's a great question. It's an important issue, and I agree that rising housing costs it's a monumental problem. I mean, everybody's worried about it, and rightly so. And my initial thought is to just give a very simple kind of thought experiment. So if, the price of, I'll just stick with the bread example. If the price of bread started skyrocketing, how would we expect self-interested bakers to respond? They would say, oh, wow, bread's really expensive. I can make tons and tons of money by exploiting this, baking more bread and selling it, reaping tons and tons of profit. Now, of course, if lots of bakers are doing this, they say, all right, I'm going to take advantage of the rising price of bread. I'm going to bake more bread. I'm going to sell it, make money. Well, then the supply of bread goes up, and eventually the price of bread goes back down. This is just, Econ 101 type stuff. And so the question is, why don't we see this dynamic in the housing market? So you would say, look, developers say, housing prices are skyrocketing. I can make a killing by building more housing, get a ton of profit. Everyone's thinking the same thing. As a result, the supply of housing goes up, the price comes back down, and now housing becomes more affordable. So the question is, why isn't the housing market responding in the way that, we would expect the bread market or other sorts of bread markets to respond to a rise in prices? And the short answer is the government just makes it very, very difficult to build. And there are all sorts of examples of this, but people talk a lot, and rightly so to my mind, about the NIMBY movement, where you want to build housing, you want to build apartments, you want to build condos, whatever. And, you have to get rounds and rounds of community input and community approval, and there are zoning regulations, all these sorts of things. It's just very, very difficult due to the regulatory environment to build more housing. So I would say people are right to be worried about this. The price of housing should be going down, but the way to solve this problem is to just let the market do its magic in the same way we let it do its magic when it comes to things like groceries or cars or anything else.
I'm speaking to Chris Freiman this morning. He's debunking some popular economic myths. We just went through the first economic myth is that the poor are getting poorer in the United States. The second myth, let's move on. Unions gave us weekends and the 40-hour work week. You say that's a myth.
Yes, that is a myth. So, there are interesting surveys of economic historians, and you say, who or what is primarily responsible for the shortened work week? And the vast majority of them say economic growth, not unions. And you can actually, again, there's all sorts of interesting data on this. But here again, I would give you a thought experiment. Well, I guess this is an issue not just about work hours, but also sort of wages. So there's this idea that unions are primarily responsible for the increase in workers' wages. And if you have more wages, then you don't have to work quite as long to afford basic necessities, this sort of thing. And so you can take more time off. So an employer is not going to pay an employee more than their marginal product. So in other words, if an employee only brings $20 of value per hour to an employer, they're not going to pay that employee $21 per hour because they would just be losing money on the deal. So it could be the case that certain employees are underpaid. So maybe the employee who brings $20 per hour to the employer is only making $18 an hour. And maybe unions, through pressure and bargaining and things like that, could bring that person's wages up a little bit. But they will never be able to push that worker's wage above $20 an hour because no employer is going to pay somebody who only brings in $20 an hour, $21 an hour. They're not going to lose money on the deal. So I do think unions can, make some sort of a difference on the margin. They can, improve workers' conditions a little bit. But really what drives higher wages is making workers more productive and accelerating economic growth. And then once workers are more productive, and this sort of goes back to the point I was making earlier about the time price of goods, if you can afford your day's calories on 1 hour of work as opposed to 5 hours of work, then you just need fewer hours per week to afford everything that you want to buy. And so you can have, a shorter work week and still get by. So unions might be a little bit of a help in terms of pushing up workers' wages and reducing their hours. But really what helps is making workers more productive, enabling them to afford more, enabling them to take more time off.
I love this. I'm speaking to Chris Freiman this morning, his first time on the Wake Up America show. He's a professor. He's debunking some major economic myths. Make sure you clip this segment and share it with your socialist friends if you still have any and they haven't completely denaturalized you from your families and, quit speaking to you like so many have. Social spending is decreasing. This is the myth, right? The third myth, that social spending is decreasing. The left was freaking out about cuts to Medicaid from the big, beautiful bill. Is social spending decreasing, Chris?
No, in fact, it's quite the opposite. So it's been increasing steadily for a very long time. And the primary driver of this is entitlement programs. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and so on. If you just look at the long-term trend of the last century or so, social spending in the United States, and not just the United States, but almost everywhere, it's been increasing. There are a variety of reasons for this, but when people talk about, an austerity program, they talk about this not just in the US, but people in European socialists are very concerned about austerity in Europe. It's just not the case that social spending has decreased. When it comes to the percentage of social spending social spending as a percentage of GDP, that's been increasing as well. So we spend more money on entitlements now than we ever have. And, this is the sort of thing, too, that's easy enough to see when you just look at federal spending every single year. It just goes up and up and up. Now, of course, not all of that is social spending. Some of it is defense spending and things like that. But the vast majority of it is entitlements. And this is actually another myth, as long as we're talking about myths. Social spending radically outpaces defense spending. So, we could argue about how much we should be spending on defense, but people will say things like, oh, if we didn't spend this much money on defense, we would have so much more money for Social Security or feeding the poor, SNAP benefits. Maybe we spend too much on defense, but we just spend far, far more on entitlement programs. That's a much bigger driver than the military.
We spend more money on interest payments than we do on our national defense in this country. And finally, okay, this is the golden calf, Chris, the fourth myth. Taxing billionaires will fix everything. If we just raise taxes on the guy who sends us our next day packages, our Amazon Prime, if we just raise taxes on the people who are allowing me to stream on this social network live to a dozen platforms, if we just raise taxes on all the people that are making it possible for you and I to have this conversation right now, then that will solve our economic problems. Chris, you say that's a myth.
Yeah, this is my favorite myth to debunk because I genuinely do enjoy defending billionaires because like you're saying, they may I'm old enough to remember life before Amazon. Amazon is incredible. It has made my life so much better. It's really amazing. And so so sometimes people say, oh, we have to tax billionaires to increase revenue. But then there's almost this punitive dimension to some of the arguments where it's like we have to punish billionaires for becoming billionaires and providing us with all these goods and services that we like to buy. So it's simply not true that we could radically increase our tax revenues by dramatically increasing taxes on billionaires. So there's this kind of funny story where there was some op-ed where an economist said, look, if we confiscated every dollar from every American billionaire, that would not be enough to run the government for more than 8 months. It was every single penny. And then there was a fact check. And they said, well, no, actually, this is not true. We could, in fact, run the government for 10 months. It's like, oh, okay. But so the upshot is, even if, which is not true, even if the billionaires had all of their wealth in gold coins, like Scrooge McDuck, they're swimming around in the Scrooge McDuck pool. And like, all right, then like the IRS comes in, takes all those gold coins. That is not enough to fund the government at its current levels of spending for an entire year. And now this actually understates the problem because, of course, they're not swimming around in gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. So if you confiscated all that wealth, you wouldn't actually get, however many billions or trillions you think you might. And that's not even to mention the fact that the long-term incentive effects would be completely disastrous. So why, if you have the idea for the next Amazon, would you try to actually implement that idea, take the risk, work the hours, if you knew that once you created the next Amazon, all of the wealth that you accrued from that would just be confiscated by the government? So, maybe we could increase taxes on billionaires a little bit and get a little bit more revenue. But this idea that we're going to fund the democratic socialist government of the United States in the future by taxing billionaires out of existence is simply not true.
Yes, and please, kids, do not dive head first into gold coins. That would kill you.
It always struck me as a weird pastime. Like, what isn't a pool with water better than, like, if I'm a billionaire, I'm swimming in water. I'm not swimming in gold.
Says no one shall besmirch the memory of Scrooge McDuck on my show. Chris Freiman, where can people follow you? Read your work, your writing? Do you have a Substack, an X page? Where should people go?
Yeah, so you could follow me on X at CA Freiman, so CA and my last name. I also do Substack occasionally at Freiman, FREI .substack.com. And actually, if I could, it's a little premature, but I got a book coming out with a friend of mine. She's a philosopher at the University of Richmond, Jess Flanagan, called Libertarianism: The Basics. Fingers crossed that's going to be out in October. You could have us on the show. I don't know.
Yeah, you better reach back out, Chris, if I forget, because we're going to have you back because you're literally talking to the audience for that kind of promotion. So
I am happy to self-promote.
Yeah, when that happens, come back in October. We'll talk about your book. Chris, this was great. Debunking 4 major economic myths. We're going to cut this up, share it out there, and hopefully more people will learn and not follow people like Zora and Mamdani off a cliff. You have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. You too.
There we go. Have a great day.
AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ. And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now,
life is like a hurricane in Duckburg. Something, race cars, airplanes. It's a duckler. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales. Ooh. I probably should have started that a little higher. Not something tales and something tales. No, DuckTales. Ooh. Da, 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 da. You will visit the Griff Shop. You will visit thegriffshop.com, where you will be haunted by the ghost of George Washington. Don't you guys freaking love this show? Do we not have fun? Are you not entertained? God, how much more could we be doing? How many more amazing guests could we get? Did you click the like button? Is that the least you could do? Just a little bit of light. Just can tickle it a little bit, right? Just like you stick your finger in your belly button and sniff it, right? Just like that. Click the like button. I'm grateful for all you do to help support the Wake Up America show. We unlock the bonus content just like we always do. Mighty Megatron, Real Science Questions, Relaxia McGroin, Steelbringer, Y2 Joe, 1983, Entropy Nomad, YO Wild Mad, Dad Bod Baboon, and Robbie Thurman, and so many people, other people who are in the chat. Joni Rankin, Amy J. She had to leave a little bit earlier. This is so much fun. We have a great time 5 days a week. Introduce me to your friends. Like, it's not weird. It's AP for Liberty. It's the Wake Up America show. Just one person. Say, hey, do you like listening to podcasts? Well, why don't you hang out with us tomorrow morning? Let me show you how to log on. Download Rumble onto their phone. Have them follow the Wake Up America show. You do one thing, you've done a good deed for the day. You could say that you did something nice for liberty and for a Liberty family here in the United States. Well, I see you guys tomorrow. It's Thursday, Thirsty Thursday. We'll see you then tomorrow morning, right back here again. Exit through the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. That's right, thegriftshop.com, guys. If you don't, George Washington will be sad. We'll see you guys tomorrow here on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Bye, guys.
About the Department of Education, America's most expensive babysitter for schools, teachers, and kids. Since its creation in 1979, this federal behemoth has spent over $100 billion a year. Yet guess what? Test scores haven't budged. That's right. We've thrown trillions at the problem, and the only thing that's improved is the size of the bureaucracy. Think about that for a second. Trillions spent, millions of kids served, and for what? Stagnant test scores, a skyrocketing pile of paperwork, and a government agency so huge it makes the DMV look like a mom-and-pop shop. Meanwhile, teachers spend more time filling out forms than teaching, and students are stuck with stagnant, sometimes even declining test scores. Enter President Trump, who's aiming a wrecking ball at this government monster. His plan? Shut the whole thing down and hand power back to the states, local communities, and yes, parents. Finally, a president who gets it. Education is not a Washington, D.C. problem. It's a family and community problem. Trump has called the department a nest of radicals pushing a woke agenda and has promised to give the power back to the people. He's already started cutting staff, laying off over 1/3 of the department's workforce, and shifting programs to other agencies. But the real goal is to close the department entirely. That will require Congress, but the momentum is building. Why should we cheer? Because the Department of Education is unconstitutional. The Constitution never mentions education. It leaves that to the states. Yet this federal giant controls billions, micromanages classrooms, forces schools to jump through hoops, and demands mountains of paperwork. All this federal meddling is justified as helping kids, but in reality, it's mostly bureaucratic overreach, power grabs, and wasted dollars. Remember Reagan? He promised to dismantle the department in the 80s. He slashed budgets and block-granted funds to states, but Congress never gave him the full shutdown. The GOP platform in the 90s doubled down on abolition, yet here we are with the same bloated bureaucratic beast. Trump's plan is the next chapter, actually trying to make it happen. Yes, there are legal battles. Courts are wrestling with whether a president can dismantle an agency Congress created. The Supreme Court recently said trimming staff is the president's prerogative, but killing the agency outright? That's Congress's job. So Trump's administration is chipping away at the edges, making the department an empty shell while lawmakers debate. If the department closes, states get more control. That means local education tailored to local values, fewer federal mandates, and more parental choice. Want to ban woke nonsense? States can do it. Want more school choice or vouchers? States can do that too. It's freedom and accountability for once. Critics worry about chaos, gaps in civil rights enforcement, and funding disruptions. Sure, change is messy. But what's the alternative? keeping a bloated, ineffective bureaucracy that spends more time regulating than educating? That's the real mess. Look at the numbers. Since the department's birth, federal spending per student has doubled, yet test scores remain flat or worse. Graduation rates barely move. Illiteracy rates still stubbornly high. We're throwing money down a black hole. And the bureaucracy? It's grown like a weed. Non-teaching staff have exploded by over 700% since 1950, while the share of actual teachers dropped. More administrators, more paperwork, less teaching. That's the department's legacy. Trump's gun rights supporters cheer his move to abolish unconstitutional taxes on suppressors and short-barreled rifles buried in other legislation. This department has long been a roadblock to liberty. Closing the Department of Education won't solve every problem overnight, but it's a necessary first step. It's time to stop wasting trillions, stop federal overreach, and restore education to where it belongs, in the hands of families and communities. The real win is putting parents back in charge. Parents who can't afford fancy schools or private tutors shouldn't be stuck with a federal system that's failed them for decades. School choice isn't a buzzword, it's a lifeline. Empower families to choose schools that align with their values and needs. That's real education reform. So here's the deal. Celebrate the win for local control, demand Congress do its job, and watch the Department of Education's bureaucratic empire crumble. The kids and taxpayers deserve